We don't take ourselves too seriously, by the way. And if you do, don't do that. Anyway, I normally start with some house cleaning items just because it hasn't been said yet, and this isn't for the folks that have been here, it's for the new folks. As the ones that have been here, you know this to be true. What Clark got up and did this morning, our prayer and the talk he gave, something we've always done, something we're always going to do. I hope it doesn't offend you because your ability to grow here and succeed here has nothing to do with your faith or your lack thereof. It has everything to do with your integrity, your work ethic, and what you do for our customers. But I hope you don't get offended because you're going to have to get over it. It's not going to change. That's part of who we are, and it's what we're going to do at our meetings annually. So I just want to send that message because, again, your faith doesn't preclude you or give you an opportunity to grow either way. I just wanted to mention it. You know, I think first, before I get into my talk, I do just want to honor my parents for a minute. I don't even know how I could top it off other than saying, you know, I think the comment you used, Dad, is do the right thing when no one's looking. And I've had a front row seat, you know, for 41 years to see them do that. I was there when I didn't have football cleats to play sports because we didn't have the money. You know, I was there when going out to dinner was a big deal. And I was there when my dad made a weekly phone call to the community banker who bet on my parents and gave them a $10,000 loan when they never deserved it. And I was there every week when he would call Charlie on a Friday and say, here's what I made this week, here's what I can pay you. And I remember him teaching me, you don't hide from things. When you owe somebody, you tell them you'll pay them, and you communicate. If you don't hide. And again, I learned things, not just in business, but in life from my parents, and I'm just so thankful and blessed to have them as my parents. I just pray, guys, that I can make just a proportionate impact on my kids that you made on me. I'm absolutely thankful and blessed to be your son. All right, now you know, I live for this opportunity. I think I've told you this before. It used to stress me out. It's giving me energy now. The opportunity, I mean, if it doesn't, I think Chris said it, if this room doesn't juice you up, you don't have a pulse. I mean, I think back, it wasn't that many years ago. We're in a little corner of a room in a tiny hotel in Lake Mary. And now we can't even fit anywhere in downtown Orlando. We got to come all the way out here to fit into the ballroom. So that excites me. What I'm going to talk about today, you know, I wasn't sure. A few months ago, I was just watching some financial news, and I think it was Bloomberg or CNBC, and there was an interview of the crazy CEO of T-Mobile, John Legere. And I heard him talking about his competitors, AT&T and Verizon. And he was bashing them, something that I don't think is the best thing to do, but he called them dumb and dumber. And he said, you know, I'm competing against dumb and dumber. And in my head, I thought, we're competing against greed and greedier, right? Wall Street being greed, private equity be even greedier. And so I thought about that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the parallels between them and between us, and the investments we're making and where we're going and the things that they can't do. So, you know, as we're in the second longest recovery in the history of our country, right? We've been on about a 10-year run rate of growth in the GDP. Jobless claims have been down. The economy is doing fairly well. And, you know, you've heard me talk before about we're preparing now where times are good for when the music stops. I think we probably have a little more runway in this second longest recovery only because I think IOA is a good barometer of what's going on in the industry because we have a good spread, offices around the country, and our average customers, they're growing their sales and they're growing their payrolls. So I think, and I'm starting to see some CapEx come into the system now with the tax cuts. So I think we got some ways to go, but we're putting in the foundation for when that tide turns because for us, it's a monster opportunity, and you've heard me talk about it before. Because I personally believe the next downturn, when the cycle turns again, the reaction is going to be substantially more dramatic than in 2008. Because if you remember, those of you that were here 10 years ago, Wall Street made substantial reactions. Private equity was barely in our space. With all the roll-ups and all the overpayments, next time, I think, Katie bar the door, it's going to be ugly, but that reeks of opportunity for us, that we don't have to do things like them. So I'm excited about that, honestly, not for the downturn, but for the opportunity that comes. And an example of that, in March, a couple months ago, one of the big alphabet houses let go of 3,000 people. And I thought about that. When times are good, what do you think that looks like when the music stops? I mean, look at this. The top 100 privately held broker list came out a few months back. And in the top 10, it's us, Lockton, and 8 private equity firms, all of which are going to get rolled up, recapped, and sold off in the next 3 to 7 years. Think about that. Us, Lockton, and a bunch of PE firms. I love watching our industry move down that same path of sameness while we do things different. Their deal, their idea, more deals with the mindset of cutting to glory. And cutting to glory on an adjusted EBITDA basis basically means taking it out of your wallets to get a return on an asset they're buying that isn't growing organically, because almost no one else is. As they look to buy, we look to grow organically, because to me, a true measure of success of any real business is, are you selling more? Are you growing the right way? And I'm pleased to report last year, we outperformed the industry substantially. We grew by over 6% organically, when our peers grew by 1.5%. Yeah. I'm more pleased to report that after the first quarter, we're up 9.1% organically. I don't even know what our peers are doing, but it's certainly not anywhere close to 9. Who else can say that? You know, I actually own shares of some of the public brokers because I like to sit on their conference calls, their earnings calls, and see what they're talking about and hear what their issues are and what they're trying to accomplish. And I'll be honest with you, I sat on a call this past quarter, and I literally did laugh out loud when one of the analysts was asking the CFO about their shrinkage in their EBITDA margin that quarter of 25 basis points, 25 bips, 0.25% in that quarter, and the response to me was so telling. Oh, we're intensely focused on protecting that margin. We'll get it back up. Not we're investing in the business, we're getting better. We're gonna cut to get our numbers is basically what he said. And I'm laughing and I'm saying, God, thank God we're not on that treadmill. Thank God we can invest with a long view to build something that isn't worried about this quarter. One other story about our peers. I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, Lagos got a call from another one of our national competitors, multi-billion-dollar firm. And they called him and they said, Jeff, we feel like you're targeting us. And the reality is, we're targeting good people wherever we find them. We're not targeting individual brokers. But it's like they don't look in the mirror and realize, maybe it's on them that a lot of your good people have come here. Maybe if you didn't treat them that way or pay them that way, and realize that they're leaving a book of business behind to join. It's not like they're taking their books. If that doesn't tell them that the problem's on them, not on us, they're not paying attention. But I guess what I'm in general really here to say this morning, I personally believe our brokerage industry is somewhat broken. It's riddled with greed. It's focused on the short term. It doesn't put the customer first. We do. They really don't, the other big brokers, they really don't want to see change. They really don't want to see disruption, even though they say they do. They'll say that, but when it comes down to it, they don't, because they're entrenched in the old ways. An example of that is Lebrecht. He sits in a national association for the big brokers. And there's this dichotomy, there's this line down the middle of the folks like us, the brokers of the future that really want change, that really want transparency and benefits, that really want to shine a light on some of the broken problems on our side of the space. And you got our peers that say they want it, but they don't because they're getting paid everywhere. They're telling their customers, here's our fee. But they're not telling them that they get a VIG on every prescription that's written. They're making money in all these different areas, and it's not transparent and it's not right. We want to shine a light on that. We want to see change. We want to put the customer first, knowing if we do that, we win over the long haul. And we're in this. It's a long game we're playing. We really want change. They're fat and happy the way it is. When we become transparent, when we're in alignment with our customers, we put them first. We're in alignment. We create loyalty that way. We're not here for satisfied clients. Satisfied's okay. We're here for loyal clients. Transparency produces that. You know, this next thing I was going to talk about, I wasn't even sure if I was going to mention, and then, you know, I think every year I have something like that. I'll just say it. But I sit in a group once a month, a group called Team Strength. It's a group of CEOs that I meet with once a month that we help each other in business, share our numbers, share our issues, give unfiltered feedback. And there's a lady, Susan, who kind of coordinates everything for us, and she's kind of a coach for me. And she and I were talking about a month ago, and she said, hey, Heath, you know, the business is going well. You guys are growing really well, and, you know, you're only 41. Like, what's your end game? What's your goal? What's this look like? Fast forward the tape. And I told her something that's kind of something I've always kept to myself, because I don't want to say it because it might come across big-headed or precocious or anything like that. That's not what I want. But I told her, I said, you know, I honestly believe, Susan, that if in the next 25 or 30 years before I'm ready to transition out, that if we can't make $1 billion impact in this broken industry, I feel like we've missed the opportunity that lies ahead. I feel like we've missed the green field that I know is out there in our industry. And again, I don't measure our success on numbers. I don't measure myself that way. But it's a barometer where I think we can ultimately go to. And I will personally feel disappointed if we don't get there together, because I see the opportunity. It's right in front of us, guys, and it's just getting started. I guess the other thing I want to say to our industry, I'm here to put the brokerage community on notice. I'm going to tell you guys where we're going, and even with a roadmap, you can't get there because you got to look at things short term. We don't. While they sit back and they spend their energy on acquisitions to buy up their competition, they can't buy us. While they grow by acquisition, by adding leverage to their balance sheets, we're investing in getting better, and I'm going to talk about those investments shortly. And we're investing to take their business organically, which is the true measure of success. While they sit there and they squeeze people over nickels to get a return on their overpayments that they made on acquisitions, we'll continue to provide freedom to our family. We'll continue to write business organically. While they focus on growth, almost only on growth, our focus will be on excellence, knowing that a byproduct of excellence is growth, but the right kind of growth. While they may offer some type of equity in the form of golden handcuffs, we provide equity in your books of business and equity in our wonderful business. While they micromanage you and they have the what have you done for me lately meetings, we continue to build and create tools that are going to make you more valuable to your clients, which make those clients loyal to you and IOA. That's the differences, or some of the differences, and I'm going to get into some of the investments we're making now that have a long payback time, and that's okay. We're here with the long view, and really no one in our space is, guys. So some of those investments, I'll start with, and I won't say much about Steve because Steve's going to get up here and talk maybe in an hour or so I won't steal his thunder, but what I will tell you is a number of years ago, every year it's like, we need a program division. It's one of the top of the to-do list, but until you find the right person, it's just a want. Steve, before he grew into a higher role at Hartford, ran their programs division there. So we've made an investment in Steve to come over here and help take us to another level there. Not bearing fruit yet, but it will, and I'm very excited about it. Second thing, I was looking at investments in risk services, and that 9% organic growth has a whole lot to do with the investments we've made there. You know, I asked Amy for this meeting, I said, hey, Amy, when you started, 7 years ago, whatever it was, what did our department look like? And she said, we had 6 people. Well, we got 25 and 5 open positions, so we'll have 30 here real soon. And that's a testament to the investments we're making on excellence and value. And I'm excited about that. And that reminds me a little bit, you remember last year when I spoke and I put up the 2 PowerPoint slides and I showed that how different we are in the last 8 years since 2010? I think the slide said what? We had 3 producers in 2010 that made over $1 million in revenue. In 2011, we had 4. 2012, we had 7. All the way up to last year, we had almost 50 or whatever it is. But that's a character, that's a picture of, in the last 8 years, how much different of a business we have and where we're going. Some other investments we're making, or we've made, in the last 12 months. We brought on 2 internal recruiters, James and Aaron. Hadn't paid for themselves yet, it's investments. But boy, are they bringing talent, and they're telling our story in the right way. And they know we're not bringing on good producers that don't fit. They know what our lines are. They know what the sight line should be and who joins us. People that we're all proud to say, it's my partner. And that's what they're doing, and I'm very thankful for both of them. They're doing wonderful. Under our new HR director, Beth Schick, under her leadership, we're looking at some HRIS software to upgrade what we have internally. It's an investment we need to make for our people. And so that's another one that we're looking at. Another investment some of you may or may not have heard of is we're pretty big in sports, but we're just getting started. So we went out and we found Bob Murphy from Marsh. Bob was at Marsh for about 15 years, and I think Aon for about a decade before that, building their sports divisions. And I believe he's going to help take ours to another level, and I'm excited about it. Again, Bob's not cheap. It's an investment, but it's one that will bear fruit over the long haul. The last one I'm going to talk about is the investment I'm probably most excited about, and it's going to cost the most, but it's exactly where we need to go. If you remember a year ago when I got up here and I talked about disruption, and I talked about how it excited me because our competitors were in the sand, but remember I said, look, in the last 10 years, think about how fast the world's changed. Because in the last 10 years, right, you've had Facebook become the largest media company in the world, and they don't own any content. You've watched Airbnb become the largest lodging company in the world, and they don't own any real estate. You've watched Uber become the largest transportation firm in the world. They don't own any cars, but they're autonomous vehicles. And you've seen Amazon become the largest retailer, and until they bought Whole Foods, didn't own a retail store. So my point in that was the world is changing fast. And I believe with AI, machine learning, robotics, and deep learning, you're going to see it move even faster, and we're prepared for that. I also said in that meeting, if you'll remember, that if there's anything more disruptible other than maybe healthcare, I can't think of it other than what we do. And it's the fact that this 90-day garbage to get a quote, it's ridiculous. That is so broken, that needs changed, and we're working on it. In order to do that, we found someone from Ireland. And let me tell you something about Europe. They're behind the US in technology, but for 2 areas, banking and insurance. They're ahead of us in those 2 areas. So just like with programs, we want to do it till we find the right person. I felt like we were going to have to build this digital quote binding platform on our own with tech people that don't know our business until we met Brian McDowell. Brian was the CEO of Hughes Insurance. It was a $70 million, the largest broker in Ireland. And Liberty Mutual purchased them because of this platform that Brian and his team built. And basically what it is, it gives you the opportunity to get, and now you can right now go online and get a Progressive quote. You can go online and get a Geico quote or through an app or whatnot. Or you can go to some of these quoting engines and get multiple indications. But all it is an indication, and it's after 20 questions, and it takes about 20 minutes. And then when you get your indication, you still got to pick up the phone and call people. And 8 out of 10 people that go through the indication process don't pick up that phone. So what we're building is something that no agency in this country has. And it's the ability to have real-time quote bind right on your phone with a handful of questions that takes 5 minutes, starting on the personal line side. That's what Brian's built. We will expand that into small commercial. And what it does, folks, you type in a VIN number, you answer a handful of questions, the vehicle's geolocated, they know the bells and whistles on it, you get multiple quotes with our partners, you can bind it on your phone, hit a button, have real access to your proof of insurance on your phone. But same thing, you buy a home, you type in the address. We don't need to ask them a bunch of questions. A lot of that data is extracted real time. So we can bind a home really fast. They can delete it or add it right from their phone, and it all speaks to Epic. And the system has been built. We're not rolling dice on something that might work. I've seen it. I've seen the metrics behind it. I've seen the growth in revenues and clients calling less because they self-serve. Because frankly, some people don't want to deal with us, and that's okay. My point is, though, we're going where the customer is. In 2025, that's 7 years from now, 75% of the workforce is going to be millennials. Whether you like that or not, it's the truth. So fast forward that 5 years, probably half of our customers are going to be millennial. They want to buy crap on their phones. Whether you like it or not, it's where we're going, and we better be where the customer is. If they want to walk in that front door, we got you. They want to pick up the phone, we got you. But if they don't, we got you as well. That's what we're building. I couldn't be more excited about it. And when you get a chance to meet Brian, you'll see how talented he is. It's the future of where we're going. Those are just some of the investments, some of the larger investments we're making, just to give you an idea that we're healthy and we have a long view. And unlike these other schmoes that care about their 25 bip shrinkage this quarter, I don't care if our margin shrinks this year, if 5 years from now we're going to take their business organically. I don't care about this quarter. We're in a long game, folks, and we're going somewhere, and I don't believe they can compete. I do believe it's been said what we built was impossible. It wasn't. My parents aren't greedy. The only thing that makes it impossible are these corporate schmoes that are greedy, that don't want to let anyone else earn, that don't want to feel, you know, hey, he's making too much, she's making too much. It's greed. That's why I was asked last night, what do you think anyone will copy your model? I said, good luck. Who's going to do it? Bring it. I'm happy to have them, but no one's going to do it, guys. So I'll just simply close with this. 1, 30 years is a blip. We're just getting started. And if you think you missed the growth, I promise you you're wrong. This industry is getting disrupted, and it's just about to be started, and we're going to be a major force doing it. You didn't miss the boat. 2, nobody looks like us. I used to, when I got in the business, there was a broker, J&H, and I used to look up to them. I used to think, man, if someday, that's a hell of a brokerage. They do things well. They write large accounts. They're consultative. And then they got bought and gobbled up, and they've never been the same. I don't look around and see anybody that I want to be like, that we want to be like. We're the only one. And I don't mean that with a big head. I mean it with sincerity, with all sincerity. And the final thing, I'll just say it, and I'll say it like this. We are the broker of tomorrow. And our competitors better look out, because we're coming for their business.